I wanted to briefly introduce you to the Graduale Novi Mundi project. Graduale Novi Mundi means New World Gradual. New World in reference to the Americas, and Gradual being the official book of chants for the Mass. So named after the Latin name for the chanted responsorial psalm in the extraordinary form, which was traditionally chanted from the steps of the ambo, or called steps being called graduale in Latin. This was done because the ambo was at the time reserved only for the proclamation of the gospel and the homily, which was, in my opinion, a practice that needs to be looked at again, maybe. But anyway, this is a book that I am writing that is going to provide official, well, not official, but English chants for the Mass that are based on official English texts and official melodies that have henceforth been sung in Latin. This is not the first attempt at such a thing. There are other great examples, such as the Palmer and Burgess Plain Chant Gradual, which uses Anglican translations, and the Father Weber's Propers of the Mass for Sundays and Solemnities. And his translations are all based on the antiphon texts that are in the actual altar missal. These are the texts that most people who attend daily Mass will be familiar with if they have a daily Mass worship aid that has the entrance antiphon and communion antiphon. If you've only attended Mass on Sundays, you may not know what an entrance antiphon is. Some pew missals have them, but they're quite often in a different section from the readings. But every week, every liturgical week, and in some cases every liturgical day, has its own proper entrance antiphon and communion antiphon. Just like every Mass has its own readings and responsorial psalm and Alleluia verse. In the general instruction for the Roman Missal, it is, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. These antiphons are in the priest's missal, and so if there is no singing, he or the congregation are supposed to say the entrance antiphon that is in the missal. They are based on and quite frequently identical to what is called the introit. The introit is not found in the lectionary or the missal. It is found in another book called The Gradual, as I alluded to earlier. And the general instruction for the Roman Missal specifies for the entrance chant 4 different options, if I remember correctly. The privileged option, the first option, is to sing the introit as is found in the Gradual. Or an approved translation. They may also sing a hymn that is in a similar spirit. This quite often is abused to include songs that have really nothing to do with the introit at all, but that's beyond the scope of my authority. I just want to provide an option that is liturgically more correct and that people can work with. Oftentimes in the Gradual, there will be multiple options for the introit. When that occurs, it is left up to kind of pastoral considerations and and talk about those later. Besides the introit, so how to understand this first sheet is kind of a worksheet just for me to collect all of the different sources of liturgical texts. And I'll do another video later showing where all of these come from. But the entrance antiphon, this is the entrance antiphon that is actually printed in the Missal, and that if you have a daily worship aid, will be familiar to you, that you would sing. The introit, and there may be a number of different options. This is the entrance chant as found in the Graduale Romanum, and where available, translated according to the Gregorian Missal, the English Gregorian Missal published by Salem. The Gradual and the Alleluia, these are the traditional interlectionary chants, and as far as I'm aware, these are only allowed to be used in America, and only if the actual original chant is sung in Latin. So set to different music or translated doesn't seem to be allowed, unfortunately, by the general instruction of the Roman Missal. They made this allowance because they wanted to preserve these gradual chants, and rightly so, because they're some of the most beautiful in the church's repertoire. But as you can see, this really is a lot shorter than a typical responsorial psalm would be. So we have one antiphon and one psalm verse, and typically in the extraordinary form, what would happen is they would just sing the antiphon and then the verse, and that's it. And these chants are so melismatic that the people could not sing any part of them. And one thing that the reformers wanted to restore was the practice of people being involved in singing the responsorial psalm. For better or worse, it is beyond the scope of my authority to judge their intentions or interpret them, for that matter. And so the big part of this project is going to be providing chants, and this is going to be a multi-year project, so the other chants are going to be kind of relatively easy. The difficult part of this project is going to be providing responsorial psalms, which I intend to provide responsorial psalms and Alleluia verses that both match the lectionary, because these are that match the lectionary, but also fully and faithfully retain the rich musical tradition of these traditional chants. The offertory chant, every Mass has an official offertory chant, but it is only found in the Gradual. It's not found in the Missal or in the lectionary. And then finally the communion antiphon, and this is found in the priest's Missal. And also a communion antiphon, a communion chant, is found in the Gradual. And sometimes these match, and sometimes they don't. And we'll see some examples of that. In the next couple of days, I will be working on the 16th week in Ordinary Time, and I'll show you exactly where I'm getting the sources for all of these texts, and how I compile them all together into this kind of one sheet that I can work off of to select chant melodies and translated texts to set them to.